Wholesaling has become quite the popular topic in recent years because it's so easy to get into. It doesn't require any money, it doesn't require any credit, and it allows you to make thousands or tens of thousands of dollars per transaction. It's no wonder why it seems like there's a new wholesaler every other day. And it got to the point where investors are starting to complain because all of the properties that they want to buy are now under contract by a wholesaler. I consider that a good thing. You might see it as a bad thing. Whatever it is what it is today. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to become a wholesaler so that you guys can get in on the action and maybe sell me a property. Hey guys, I'm Hoan. Welcome to the Hoan Zone, where we help you multiply the assets you own. In today's video, I'm going to go over how to wholesale, and I'm going to give away information that people sell for thousands of dollars, and I am doing it just so that you guys can get more educated about what the process is so that you guys can get involved. I want more people to become investors. I want more people to be in the real estate space because I like to create allies. I like to create teammates, and the more people I educate properly, the more people I can work with in the future. It's kind of an abundance mindset where I'm not creating my competition, I'm creating my allies. So hopefully you guys see it as the same way, and if you guys are a real estate investor, do not be in the scarcity mindset that I'm going to create so many competitors that we won't have any more business. If anything, it's going to create more business for us because these wholesalers are going to give me access to properties that I wouldn't have access to otherwise. All right, with that, let's get right into it. All right, for those who don't know what wholesaling is, I'm going to break it down really quickly. So here's a house, and let's say this person here, they own the house and they want to sell the house, right? They're going to say like, hey, I want $100,000 for my house. Okay, so then this person says, hey, I'll buy your house for $100,000. And then they're going to go under an agreement of sale, AOS, agreement of sale, for that $100,000. Then here's me, right? I'm this person. And then they tell me, hey, I have a house that's for sale for $110,000, right? $110,000. I'm like, okay, sounds good. So really what's happening is that this agreement of sale is being placed between me and the seller now. So I'm going to move the seller down here, right? If this is the seller, right, now we have the agreement of sale between me and the seller. And that means that I am going to give the seller the $100,000. And then I'm going to give this person the $10,000. I think you guys understand how that works now, right? So that's the basic premise of it. So the seller here wanted $100,000. That person over there, they said, yeah, I'll sell it to you for, or I'll buy it from you for $100,000. They get it under contract for $100,000. And then they tell me that it's $110,000, and that's fine. Right? I run my number. As long as I figure out that 110 works for me, then I'm good. I don't care that you're making $10,000. That's your business, not my business. My business is how much money came out of my pocket. And in this case, it's $110,000, right? The 100 plus the $10,000. And voila, you, the wholesaler, just made $10,000. And that's how it works. So now a couple of questions come up usually when people are becoming a wholesaler for the first time. They're like, hey, well, what if I get it under contract? Right? I get under contract and I can't find a buyer. So that's me, right? And I'm like, hey, I'm over here. And it's like this, right? So let's do this. And that's how the arrangement is so far. They have an agreement of sale for the house for $100,000. And then when you say that you want $110,000 and nobody says, I want the house because it's overpriced at $110,000, everybody's like, no house for me, not at that price, right? What do? Are you stuck with buying the house? Well, the answer is probably not. And this is why. Because within the contract, right? Within the contract, there's a clause. And your contract is going to read however it reads. So in the clause, hopefully one of your clauses that says that if I'm unable to perform, or partners unable to perform, or third parties unable to perform, then I don't have to buy this property. So it gives you an out. The thing is, the seller, unfortunately, they're out of luck because they can't force you to buy it if in your contract there's a clause for you to get out. Now, it sucks morally for you and the seller and all that kind of stuff, but contractually you don't have to buy it. I remember when I first started out wholesaling, I don't wholesale too often, but I do wholesale once in a while. But I did join a company years ago, and it was a wholesaling company, and they wanted me to go out and lock up properties under contract with sellers, and then we would try to sell the contract afterwards. We didn't necessarily have a buyer in place to buy the property. So I would lock up properties, and then days and weeks would go by and I couldn't find a buyer. And then I would have to go back to this person and say, hey man, I'm sorry, I can't close on this. And then they're like, oh, right? Because they put all their trust and effort and faith in me that I was going to actually buy the property. And then I come back to them and it's like, hey, I can't buy the property. So that was heartbreaking for me. I couldn't do it anymore. So that's why I became more of the buyer, the investor. So like if I'm saying, hey, I'm going to buy the property, then I am the buyer. I'm the actual buyer. I'm not just trying to wholesale. So that caused me to get out of the wholesaling business. I will wholesale when I know that I have a buyer. So if there's a seller and the seller and I go into a contract, if I don't have a buyer, then I am going to buy it. And if I do have a buyer, then I have the option to wholesale it. So either way, the property is going to be bought and the seller is going to feel great because in the seller's mind, you are buying their problem, right? And they're giving to you at a price that works. It's like it's a discounted price because they have a problem. So then I'm solving their problem, but if I don't buy the property, then I'm not solving their problem, and then they have heartbreak, and I have heartbreak, and I'm sensitive, and it sucks. But that's why I am now an investor, and I buy a bunch of properties, and I guess I'm better for it. Okay, so let's run into a scenario real quick, and let's talk about what happens if the person can't perform. So here, let's get rid of this real quick. So if they're saying like, hey, I want $110,000, right? And I don't straight up say no. I go, no, I can't do 110, but I can do $90,000, right? So what's going to happen now? The contract is for $100,000. So maybe you can go back to the seller and say, hey, look, I can't give you the $100,000, but maybe if you say yes to 85, let's get it done. So sometimes you can go back and renegotiate the contract with the seller. And so then you will still be able to get rid of their problem. So if you and the seller agree to 85, that means that I am going to give them the 85. I'm going to give you 5, and then I get the house. See? So that's how it works. That's the basis of it. Okay. So that's wholesaling structure-wise. Now let's go into the documents that are needed. All right, so I laid it out to where you guys can see the structure of this. Here's the seller. Between you and the seller, you guys have an agreement of sale. And then between the wholesaler and the buyer here, right? So you got the buyer and the wholesaler, there's a contract. It's called an assignment contract because what you're doing is you are assigning the agreement of sale, right? So that's how it works. There's an assignment contract and it says what the fee is, $5,000 in this case. So it's not a purchase price of $90,000. It's an agreement of sale for $85,000 and then there's an assignment fee for $5,000. So that's how the contracts look. And in terms of payments, how you get paid, it all happens at the closing table. So let's draw what that is going to look like. Let's get rid of the house there, right? So then what's going to happen is, let me move some of these out of the way. Let me move that here. Let me take this guy. Let me put him here. Let me put him here. Okay, we're going to do something like this. So hopefully this works out. Okay, so we're going to move them. We're going to move them. So what's going to happen is we're going to go to the closing table, right? And this is at the title company, right? Title company. So I, the buyer, am going to wire or bring a check for $90,000 plus any like closing costs. So closing. Okay, so maybe it's not $90,000, maybe it's $95,000. Okay, so I'm bringing a check, one check for $95,000. What's going to happen is the title company is going to get my $95,000, and they are going to cut the seller the $85,000 minus any kind of closing costs. So, and closing costs. Taxes, so it could be back taxes, it could be property taxes, it could be transfer taxes. It can also be for any kind of utilities, right? So there could be utility costs, all that kind of stuff. So the seller is going to get $85,000 minus all that. Oh, I'm sorry, and one more, any loans that might be on the property. So like there might be a mortgage or something like that. So the mortgage is $10,000, it'd be 85 minus the 10,000, so that's $75,000, and then you minus closing costs and transfer taxes and title insurance and property taxes and all that. Then they might walk away with like $69,000, something like that, right? As an example. So they might get $69,000, and then the wholesaler is going to get their $5,000 check, and that's full $5,000, nothing taken out of it, and voila. So that is the mechanics of it. So I bring the check, right? I bring the check for 95. The title company then will, and I make this out to the title company. So that check there, that $95,000 check, is made out to the title company, made out to title. Okay, made out to the title company, $95,000. The title company is going to cut a new check from their checkbook for, let's say, the $69,000 that the seller is going to get, and then they're going to cut a check to the $5,000 or to the wholesaler for $5,000, and then the taxes and the utilities and the loan and all that kind of stuff. The title company is going to cut a separate check for all of that kind of stuff. So the title company is the hub. They get the big check, and then they cut out small checks to everybody else: the wholesaler, the seller, the city, the state, whoever needs to get paid off. They get paid off. So from the title company and then out. I generally try to keep my videos under, say, 15 minutes, so I didn't want this video to go on too long. If you are interested in becoming a wholesaler, your job is to get an agreement of sale contract, an assignment fee contract, or an assignment contract, right? So you're gonna have those two contracts, and then your job is to go out and find properties that are for sale or sellers that are looking to sell their property. You get a property under contract, and then you go out and you try to find a buyer that will pay more for the property. And then I gave you guys that one little tip of, if you can't sell it for a price that's higher than what you have it under contract for, you might want to try to go back to the seller and get them down in price. If you can get them down in price, then voila, you have an opportunity to still sell the property, because in the mind of the seller, when you said yes, you're going to buy it for $100,000 or whatever you said you were going to buy it for, then they already think like their problems are gone. So if you come back to them and say, hey, I can't sell it, that's going to crush them. But you can say instead, hey, I can't buy it for that $100,000. I can buy it for $85,000. Will that still work for you? Like, we can get it done. We can get it done next week or in 2 weeks or whatever it is. And then they can say, why do you have to reduce the price? Oh, there were unforeseen repairs that were more expensive than I had anticipated. So if you can't come down in price, I can't buy the property. So it could be something like that, right? So you can say like, hey, I messed up. And so if you reduce your price, I can still solve your problems. And voila, you're happy, I'm happy, we're all happy, and then everybody goes off on their happy way. But yeah, that's wholesaling in a nutshell. And you can get in there. If you notice, there was no money coming out of your pocket as the wholesaler, and nobody checked your credit because you're not the actual buyer and you're not getting a loan on this property. So that's why it's become so popular over the last couple of years, because people can get in and they watch videos like this and they learn how to do it, and they're like, oh wow, this is amazing. And that wholesale fee, that can be anything. It can be $5,000, it can be $25,000, it can be $55,000. There's no limitation to what the wholesale fee is going to be. It all depends on what price you get the seller at, and then what price you find the buyer at. And that spread, that's how much money you make. All right, guys, if you enjoyed that video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and then hit that bell icon, because we release new videos every Monday and Wednesday. And if you need additional help with real estate investing, and if you want to become a real estate investor where you're buying the properties, then check out wholesale.com/community. In the community, we talk about all of the different ways to buy property so that you can multiply the assets you own. All right, guys, well, that is it for this video. I'm Hoan Tide. Let's multiply.